Hey, brother sewing and crafting family, Angela Wolf here. So nice to see you. And we are in part, I think it's 6. I don't even know anymore, but we're sewing our bag. So today we're going to finish the edges. And if there's time, we'll finish the zipper. If there's not, we'll move the zipper on to next week. So welcome, everyone. I have a lot of funny things for you not all sewing, but I got to share. And I can see you all rolling in too. We are live on YouTube and Facebook. So you've always heard the term bad hair day. Have you ever had a bad shoe day? Yeah, I'm having a really bad shoe day. So it's kind of cooler today. Fall is here. You kind of pull out the other shoes out of your closet. And I have a favorite pair of boots I wore last year. Okay, so they're right here. Super cute zippers, right? So I had to run to Joanne. Oh, sorry, not a brother brand. I had to run to the fabric store because I needed an extra package of binding for our project today, right? And I'm walking through the store and I'm like, what is that noise? I sounded like actually kind of like a horse. I guess that's all you could say. That's not a compliment, by the way. So halfway through the store, I thought, what in the world is going on with my shoes? So this is what the bottom's supposed to look like. This is the bottom of my other shoe. The sole broke off. So all the way to the store, it sounded like, well, never mind. I don't think I really need to replay that for you, but all I wanted to do was get something for my bag. Now I need to buy new shoes. So then I get to the office, take these shoes off and put another pair of shoes on. And I don't know what I walked in with these, but these are like ice skating rinks. So during today's live, if you hear a shh, it just means I slipped. I slid for home base. How's that? Is that what you do when we're so excited that we finish our sewing? Yeah. All right. So that's my story of the day. I would love to know if you've had a crazy morning. Leave it in the comments because I sit around at night and read all of these. So it's so great to see you all. And that's exactly what it sounded like, Julie. Exactly. Clippity clop. And I walk pretty fast. So it sounded like a jogging horse. I think there's another word for jogging with horse, but either way. Okay, so are you ready? Now, by the way, so many of you have posted photos using hashtag Brother Sews and hashtag Angela Wolf, and I love your fabrics. Oh my gosh. So Karen, I don't know if you're on here today. Karen Meyer, she had this gorgeous, I think it was a peacock. It was beautiful. So don't forget to share your photos. You can share them here on Brother, or you can share them on Instagram. Use the hashtags and then we can find them. Okay. That was not my shoe. Are you ready? So far, we've already put the pockets in. We have the straps. If you're new to the Sew Along, you just found us today, you can go back and watch all the episodes on Brother Sews YouTube and Facebook pages. And I also put them all on angelawolf.com to make it easy to find. And don't forget, you can leave comments on the blog too, which would be fabulous to hear from you. So we've already done everything. We just need to sew the bag together and finish the sides today. And then last but not least, add the zipper. All right, so if there were no questions from last week's session, I will, Patty, maybe just, you know what? That's the whole thing is I only wear like tennis shoes all the time. Today I thought I'll dress up because I'm going to go meet a girlfriend for a cocktail after work and all these things. Forget it. I'll be back in my leggings and my jeans, my leggings and tennis shoes in no time, right? Oh gosh. Yeah. No sewing yesterday. Oh no, you broke the outlet? Oh, Patty, that does not sound good. That does not sound good. Yeah, Jan, didn't you see that peacock fabric? It was beautiful. All right, so let me take all of this off the screen for you so you can get a full view of what's happening. And so supplies today, I'll take you to the table. I'm going to be using the Brother Stellaire. Of course, you can use any fabulous Brother machine for this, but I'll be using the Stellaire. We're going to sew on. Now, this takes a little bit, it's a lot of fabric, okay? So make sure you grab your thicker needle. I did not change my needle, so we'll keep our fingers crossed that I'm all good today. Because you know what happens when you're in a live show. If it's going to go haywire, it'll do it then. Okay. Meet you over there. At least, you know, the funniest, I could put those shoes back on and you could hear me going from side to side to my studio as I go from one section to the next. All right, so you should have all of this finished. Now we have our bag, and I'm going to start exactly where we left off last time. Do you like my embroidery, by the way? This was from the Luminaire. Yeah, it actually matches my bag, kind of. All right, so the last step that you were supposed to do on the last lesson was to mark the center of the bottom of your bag. This is the top of my bag, and a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And you're going to pin that to one side, and now I'm going to go to the other side and do it to the other side. It's a very creative box. So this notch right here coordinates with the center bottom seam. And as I mentioned, that's a lot of fabric to go through. I just like to stitch slowly, but if you have any issues at all, just change your needle, and a number 14 denim G needle works great. All right, here's this. I'm going to mark my 1/2 inch seam allowance. So I see somebody asking, what else is on my sewing table this week? Well, if you've been watching my live show behind the scenes, I'm sewing this bag, and then I'm sewing my quilted skirt, touch of couture skirt out of tweed, and that's behind me. So when I'm finished here today, that's what I'm going to actually sew. I need to put the zipper on and quilt it. Okay, so those are my seam allowances. I like to just put that with some chalk. It's just easy for me to find it as I'm sewing. I'm just so used to it from the old days. Well, I'm not that old, but from starting from scratch, because what will happen is, to give you an example, once I sew to this end, I'm going to turn the fabric and we're going to sew up this end. All right. I will need to put a snip in the fabric, which I'll do live with you. And also you'll notice that the side of the bag is not the same height as the top of the bag. All right, let's head to the sewing machine. Make sure you have your scissors, a sharp pair of scissors, because you're going to need to do a little snip. And if you have any questions, just leave them below. Hey, Susie, glad you made it back to Florida. And Patty, and then I will be starting the jacket to go with it. I'm actually going to sew the Blair jacket first. Oh, guess what I'm missing? Who watched my live show yesterday? I stole the foot from that machine and put it on the Luminaire. I guess I got to bring it back now. Okay. Yeah, I think the Blair jacket will be my next jacket. And then I want to make a trench coat. So we could do sew-alongs for a very long time. The trench coat, I bought some cashmere. And I'm going to wash that today in shampoo. Okay, so the first side, set your seam allowance. Or not seam allowance, set your stitch length a little bit longer. I've got mine to 3.0. So now you can see why those chalk marks come in handy if I get a little closer here. Because I'll put the needle right on that crosshair there. And I know that that's right at the 1/2 inch seam allowance. I'll do a stay stitch, which is this button right here in case you are new to the Brother machines. Looks like a little circle. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I just saw this, Mickey. So this is a total squirrel moment but I need your suggestions. So the girl at the gym is taking her kids to Disney and wants some designs. I offered to do some things for her. I don't know if we're going to do a hat or a bag, but if you have any idea, she's got 2 boys. What should I do for them for Disney as a gift, a surprise gift? I'm assuming she doesn't watch my live show because she's working. So give me some ideas, because you know the Brother machine has a ton of great Disney stuff in there. Uh-oh. I just realized something. I don't want to sew this to the right side. Oh, go back to the table. Let me show you the bag. All the seams are to the outside. Well, thankfully, I didn't do the whole thing. I'm wondering, did anybody catch that? Ay, ay, ay. Well, that's okay. There was only 3 stitches there. All done like it never happened. Take the pins out. Can we rewind? No, because it's not live. Look at my bag. All of the seams are facing towards the outside of the bag. There's no seams on the inside. Whew. I'd love to know if anybody caught that. So now, again, I have to just change this around, put some chalk marks. There's my 1/2-inch guide right here, my 1/2-inch guide. I'm just using the grid on my cutting area here to do that. Oh, it's nice and quiet now. You hear the noise? Wind is outside pressure washing his bottom of his boat. Fall duties for charter fishing, right? Okay, there's my center seam. Wow, that was almost a whole, we would have spent the whole show ripping out, which wouldn't be bad. I'll just visit with you. Okay, now we have right sides facing out. Does that look better? Yeah. Wowzer. Okay. Take 2, right sides facing out, and stitch this with a 1/2-inch seam allowance. Back to the machine. It's kind of like a total take 2. I'm still using the still air. I'm still using a 3.0 stitch length, and it's still going to be a thick seam, just the other way. So at least I only had 3 stitches to rip out, right? 2 stay stitches and 1 stitch. Not bad at all. Not bad. All right, to the machine. That's how we all learn. Oh, Patty, I love that. For sure. For sure. Oh, Phyllis says more sew-alongs. Chloe, speaking of squirrels, yeah. Good catch. Hey, Cindy, I just thought of something. No pun intended. I'm using fishing fabric. Good catch. Good catch. Oh, yeah, that was so bad. Oh, you guys are naming. I thought you were naming my squirrels, Sandra. Chip and Dale, 1 for each boy, but I thought you were naming the squirrels, which would be a very cute name. Although I think that name refers to other things. I don't know. The squirrels probably wouldn't mind. I know. Us sewing people, we just have a very bad sense of humor. Okay. Needle down position. This is like Groundhog Day. We just did this. All right. Pick up all my pins here. Ready? Now, when I get to that center position where it goes through a ton of fabric there, which starts about right here, I'm going to use the hand wheel because that is a lot of fabric. I'm not saying the machine can't go through it because it can, but I did not put a new needle in, and I would rather be safe than sorry. So I'm using the hand wheel. You could also put this at a very slow speed, but if you've ever sewn over something really thick, like I just made a faux leather, I didn't finish it, but I'm working on something with faux leather. There's a super, super thick seam there, and I just use the hand wheel just to get over the really thick parts. Now, if I was doing this on jeans, I'd hammer it down, and then that I'd for sure be good, but I don't know if I really want to hammer this fabric. All right, so we're going to stitch right. See, are we right there? One more stitch to the 1/2 inch seam allowance, and then do a stay stitch. Okay, now I would actually turn this without stopping. So I want to make sure you can see this. So I'm going to go ahead and stop and cut my thread. Get this out of the way. Let's go ahead and do the other side. I'm doing this in a few different steps just so you can see it. But after you see how this is sewn, you'll be like, oh, you could have just done all that in one. But I do like to sew the bottom first and then go up each side instead of going all the way around. Hi, Win. All right. Everybody's saying hi to you. I think he left. He went back out. I was having a bad shoe day. He's having a bad hose day. He was washing his boat and the whole hose broke a huge leak. But other than that, everything's great. Okay, get to the other end. Right on the seam allowance. That looks pretty close. I'll do a stay stitch. And then cut. I'm going to take you out just a little bit here to show you what I'm going to do now. So you have the bottom edge. You know what? I think you'll see it better from the table. I'll take you back over there. I can never tell. Hey, Colleen. Colleen says she's new to the site. Welcome. If you have an idea for what the next sew along should be, you guys should let me know. I'll let brother know. And they'll either say yeah or nay. Yay or nay. What would you like to see next? Should we sew a cashmere jacket? Ooh, I know not everybody sews garments, but that's okay. All right, so this is my edge that we just sewn. We've just sewn both of these. So when I go to sew this, I'm literally going to turn the bag and go up. But what happens at the very edge here? You get a big mess. So this is where you're going to snip. On this fabric, just a 45-degree corner to go right to where your last stitch was. So if I go to pin this, it's easier if you do it while you're folding it, and this gets really messy. So snip. You can see it just a little better from the blue side. Just give it a little snip, and now the bag turns. See how nice that looks now? And now I can stitch up the other end. I'll put some pins in here and you'll see what it looks like a little better. If you've never made a bag before, you might be thinking, ay, ay, ay. It does not go all the way to the top edge. And there's the snip. I'll snip the other side. This is why I mentioned using really sharp scissors. So see how that snip, when you go right to the stitch line, it opens the fabric up. And I'll put pins on this side. I like to sew from the bottom up, so I'll have to flip the bag around a little bit. I'm using really sharp pins. If you're using quilting pins or something that's not real sharp and can't get through all these layers, just use clips. Or like our friend Karina does, she uses hair clips, which that works great too. All right, so from this side, snip right to the seam allowance, right to the stitching but not through, and then turn the bag. All right, and then go to this side, do another snip. And then up the other side. So every side is pinned now with all the seams angling towards the outside of the bag. Got it? Of course, I just pinned myself. No worry. No band-aids needed, I don't think. Oh, everybody wants covers for their stellaire. Julie wants a simple-ish garment. Oh, Patty, I like that. No, Phyllis, I'm not putting feet on the bag, but you could. Patty says no sewing machine cover. Oh. Yeah, I don't use my covers. Every once in a while, I'll cover one of my sergers or something like that, and then I need it. So, all right. So, we've already sewn the bottom, and this is why I put that mark with chalk, because right there at the bottom is where I'll start my stitch. You can see that slit really good right there. Do a stay stitch. Just making sure all the pins are out. Got a little bit of a fabric fray right there. I love the colors on the new stellaire, by the way. It's like a platinum. Brother gets an A+ on that one. I've always wanted a platinum machine. And the luminaire is a little bit darker platinum, but this is a beautiful silver. Okay, so let's make sure we got each end. So we did there and there. So we're good. Sometimes when I'm finished, I'll do one more stitch on this side just to go right around that edge, just to make sure I captured everything, just to give it a little more security. So I'm just going to go down. And then slide this side out of the way and do one more stitch here. You don't have to do that. I just tend to put a lot of stuff in my bags. All right, let's see. That side's done. Now let's flip the bag around and go to this side. This side's easier to sew because you can see right where that snip is. I'll bring you a little closer here. So Julie, you said sew a simple-ish garment for the next sew along. What is your definition of simple? Just curious, because I love sewing garments. All right, so this side's done. I did a pretty good job stitching this one. I'm just going to go one more time at the corner on the bottom side, just to make sure that I like to do that because where the snip is. All right. One side finished. Kind of. All right, we're going to start at this side. Again, start snipping right at that corner that you snipped out. Anybody going to any fun sewing events this weekend? I know the brother dealers have been having a lot of fall parties. Just curious if you're going to anything like that. All right. Again, it does not go all the way to the top. I got that totally enclosed there. Looks pretty darn good, but I'll do one more stitch along the bottom just to make sure. I know this bag is getting, there's so many layers, you have to kind of squish it out of the way. It's your sewing word for the day, squish. All right, the other side. We'll sew up this side. Oh, I see a few new people joining us. Welcome. We are doing a sew along, and you can go back and watch all the previous videos to get the instructions for this. It's all done live. Well, some pre-recorded, but all on video, I should say. All right. All four sides are finished. Now let's go back to the table. We're going to trim off some of our seam allowance, just a little bit, and I'll give you some options for finishing the edges. Any questions on my way back to the table? This turned out pretty cute so far. So we have the whole, everything sewn towards the outside. We have to finish those seams somehow. I'm going to use double biased, double folded bias tape. Whew, need more coffee, right? All right, any questions before I head over there to show you how to pin this? Nope, okay. Oh, dust covers for kitchen appliances. Now that I could use, Darlene. I could use that big time because I never use the kitchen appliances. Only Win does. I try. I get an A for effort. Hey, Fran. Better late than never. All right, so here's the bag. Now, this is the tricky part. You have to decide. You can use self fabric if you want, or I found this that matches. Remember this 1/4 inch bias? I found some 1/2 inch double folded, and I also found some 1 inch, which I'll use the 1 inch for the zipper probably. So I could use either or. The 1 inch might be a bit much for the sides. So I'm going to use the 1/2 inch. I want to cover up the seam. So with the 1/2 inch seam allowance, I'm going to need this a little smaller. It's going to be too big. So just trim off. Where did my scissors go? Here they are. They were out dancing. So be careful not to trim your straps. Make sure everything's out of the way and just trim this down. I'm literally just cutting maybe 1/8 of an inch off that seam allowance. Plus, just in case it wasn't totally straight, which I don't know who would not sew straight, but This way it gives me just a little bit of extra room for that 1/2 inch double folded bias tape to finish the edges. And by the way, now it's going to get really thick at the bottom. This fabric frays more than I thought it was going to. Okay, let's go ahead and trim the other side. Don't forget, it's the end of the month. You know what that means? You forgot to download the free design of the month on the Brother blog. Head over to the Brother blog. So go to brothersews.com, scroll to the bottom, and go to Stitching Social. And the free design of last month was really cute. If you're watching this after the month, let's see, what are we, September of 2023? Then you'll want to, you can still purchase it if you really wanted it. Okay, so our sides are ready. Decide which one of these you're going to use. I'm going to use the 1/2 inch. This one I used self fabric. So if you have extra fabric, you can do that too. And actually, I didn't even have enough to make it on the bias. And because these are pretty much all straight lines, and I just made a little corner for the corners, I didn't even need to cut that on the bias. So that saved a lot of, it saved a lot of fabric. Go with that. All right, I'll pin one side, sew that. Now, the only thing is at the top. Your zipper is going to be covering up the top edge. So just start your trim a little bit higher. Well, we can trim it off. I always start a little bit higher. That way I'm not starting to stitch right at the very edge of that thick fabric. Now I'm going to pin this just a little bit and then ask you, do you prefer to sew through all the layers at the same time? Or are you going to sew it more like I did with the other pieces, where I folded this back, open this up, and then I'll sew right along that press line? What's your preference? Why would I choose this? Well, this is a lot of fabric to sew through. And when you have this folded over, if the bottom slips at all, you'll sew through that area, but you might not capture the whole backside. So I'll pin the one layer. When I go around the bottom side, I'll snip the bias tape just a little bit. I could even fold it just a little bit, but just to get around the bottom, to get around the corners. And I'll do that on the machine. It's easier to do. I don't like using a lot of pins for that, but I wanted to give you an idea. So sew here, then we're going to wrap it around and stitch on the other side. So I can either stitch from this side to encapture that end. It's just easier though with all this thickness. All right, so grab all your tape, bias tape, and I'll meet you at the machine. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you guys. I think, okay, so the whole wolf pack says, open it up and sew. 2 steps. Oh, Esther would do 1 though. Okay, Esther, you go, girl. Okay. Bring this a little bit lower. Just because of the chair that I'm wearing. So for this is a lot of layers. You're going to stitch right on that folded edge. If you need to air one side to the other, air to the right. Otherwise, you won't have enough fabric to get all the way around the side. And yes, you can totally make your own. Let me turn this off. You can make your own bias tape. Or, like I mentioned, I didn't even use bias on the last one because these are straight seams. And as long as you just do something creative to get around the corner, you're fine. I'll show you why I don't like using pins though. Because I can much easier see where this folded line is with my seam line. I can feel it. And for me, it's just a little more accurate. So I'm stitching all the way down to my previous stitch line, not to the bottom of the fabric. So I stitched right down to the stitch line here. I need to do 2 more stitches. And then I will flip this to the side. Just kind of do a little L. I will put a pin in here to show you what happens here. Then when I go to flip it around, I'll have just a nice little point like that. Can you see that? I know it's dark. All right, let's go back. This time I'm going to stitch all the way to the end. I think it'll just be easier to flip it. And yes, I am going slow because that's a lot of layers. All right, so move this side of the jacket of the bag out of the way, and then take. There we go. Give it a little snip here. Just a little snip in the seam allowance so I can flip the fabric. There we go. Much better. Just ripping out a little bit. I went a little bit too far there. Leaning over the camera is always a bonus, right? All right, so now I'm taking my folded edge, sliding all this bag back in there. I'll try to push this out of your way so you can see. There we go. Now she's behaving. So about right here is where that real thick bottom starts. And again, I'm going to be go the safer route. I'm just going to use the hand wheel to get through all of those layers. How many layers of fabric are we going through? Do you remember? Well, you've got seam allowances, you have the lining, the outside, the batting, seam allowances, plus the fabric that finished the bottom there. Perfect. That's a lot. All right, again, sew right to where you finished sewing before. You can mark it with chalk if you need to. Otherwise, You can kind of feel it and see it yourself if you're closer. Probably not as good on the TV. Okay. There's that stitch line. And now I'll do a little snip. And now I can flip this easy. Just a snip in the seam allowance, that's it. And push all that bag out of the way. I know. Do you ever notice when you sew slowly, it's kind of like watching grass grow? Now, if I wasn't live on TV, I'd probably be going a lot faster, but I'm just trying to make sure I'm being very careful. And again, we'll go to the top, all the way to the top. Make sure you keep your straps out of the way and don't accidentally cut those. I'll just trim this off. Okay, so one side of the bag is ready to have then you just wrap the bias tape around it. And do another row of stitching. I'm going to stitch right in the middle of, you could use a zigzag stitch, that'd be cute. Do a little bit of a longer stitch length, 3.5 with all these layers. I'm stitching about 1/4 of an inch, not even that, maybe about 1/8 of an inch from the edge of the fold. Then I'm guaranteed to capture the bottom layer of fabric. Did anybody look, by the way, on the not the scan and cut? Well, yeah, in the scan and cut or on the Art Spear app to see what I could add to this little missing hole. If you missed that episode, you'll just have to, you can go back and watch it. But I just downloaded Art Spear on my new phone, and so I haven't had a chance to look through everything yet. All I know is next week we're going to be playing with Print Moda, using this fabric and mashing it up. That's the only word I could say, because I know somebody was asking, can you actually copy a print? Well, of course you can't. If you're using something for yourself, you have a little more flexibility, but I have some fun ideas for you on the Print Moda that I think you're going to love. I just trimmed off that corner a little bit, not a lot, just a little, in case you're wondering what that was, just so I can wrap this around the edge. The nice part about the bias tape is it automatically will just fold to the back side. All right, let's get around this corner. Make sure I'm capturing. Now on my other piece, I turned it more into a full corner instead of a rounded edge. This is bias, so I have a little more flexibility on rounding the edges. So if you're using self fabric and you cut it on the straight of grain, you'll just have to probably sew the side, stop, and then sew the bottom, if that makes sense. All right, let's get around all these layers here. All right, we're back at that bottom section. So now how many layers are we going through? We should have a contest. By the way, speaking of contests, did you see, I don't know if I'm hoping it didn't end today. I can't remember if it ended today or tomorrow. On Instagram, Brother has a big giveaway going on, so make sure you check out the Instagram page there. All right, we're getting to the end of this other corner, and I'll snip this a little closer so you can see what I did. There's the little point. I'm just snipping the point of that triangle off of the seam allowance in there, just to make it easier to wrap this around. There's a lot of finagling. You know, some of you that make those big, beautiful quilts, I can imagine that you have just as much finagling to do as when you're binding those quilts. They're beautiful. All right. We're getting there. Side one, I see end in sight. So next week, we're going to play with print moda, and we're going to make a little matching coordinating zippered bag that you could put your lip gloss or some money, credit card, anything like that. Because what else would you want to throw in this bag? We got little compartments. All right, this side gets much easier. And again, I'm going a lot slower for you guys, just so you can see everything. I'm going to trim a little bit of this off right here. I think I got a little carried away on my seam allowance there when I was stitching the bias. There we go. Now she'll fit better. And again, carry this all the way to the top. Whew. That's a chore. Now, when you're sewing at home, it won't be a chore because you're not leaning over a camera and not doing it live. Okay, right here on the edge, I'm just going to trim this off so it's level with the top of the bag. And look at how nice this looks. Wait, let me bring it under here. There's the back side. There's the front side. I purposely used a little brighter thread so you could see what this looks like. Around the bottom corners, and then here's this end. I think it looks really nice. Again, this end, I'll trim this off right here. All right. And there's my corner. I'll take you back to the table. I think it's a little brighter. And I'll show you a couple things before I let you go, because then you're going to go sew that, and I will meet you next week, and we'll finish the zipper and get started on the print moda. I'll also tell you the supplies you're going to need. All right, so this is the bag so far. Look at how cute this looks. So this is using the bias binding that coordinates with this binding. I use the brighter thread just so you could see it, but it actually works really nice on this. Trim off the top edges. So what I was doing under there, which you might not have been able to see, are these corners right here. Just trim those. Just trim it off a little bit. It's just easier to get your bias tape around the edge and then around this edge too. Now, if you're new to sewing, I'm going to give you another tip here. if you're a little bit of a newer sewer, I'll just use this piece as a guide. You could lay this right on the fabric now, stitch all the way around, and then trim your seam allowance instead of trimming your seam allowance first like I did. So if you're new to sewing, you can go ahead and you put your bias tape on first and then trim. It just makes it a little easier if you have a hard time sewing a smaller seam allowance. So you'll do the other side. And then our last step, which we'll do next week, is the zipper. So the supplies you're going to need for that is 1 inch double folded bias tape. I don't know why I can't say that word today. And a 22-inch zipper. Now, is your bag 22 inches? No. But I'll show you what it looks like on the bags. Look, I found a perfect color. Isn't that great? It's going to look wonderful. So let me just show you what this is going to look like while you're gathering your supplies in case you want to cut your own fabric. So the zipper is actually attached to the bias. And this one I used 1/2 inch folded over. Yeah, I did. So you could use either 1 inch or 1/2 inch. And notice how the zipper opens all the way to here, because if you have your bag way open, you need this extra space to be able to get in there. So if you don't have 22 inches, you could probably get away with maybe 18 inch. And that will be next week. All right. Any questions for me before I let you go? It was a lot of fun sewing with you today. We only made one mistake. A brief one, right? A 3-stitch ripper outer. That's nothing. In my book, that's nothing. Yes, happy National Sewing Month. Oh, there's the giveaway. Thank you. The Create Room. You guys have to enter this. This is so cool. Thank you, Brother Sew's social team, for posting this. Brother's website, let me bring that up for you. And I'm going to leave this up. Take a screenshot of it. It's a bit.ly, which is a shortened version of the website. So let me bring this up for you. It's very cool. All I saw was the machine going up and down in a really beautiful cabinet. So to give you a little hint there. And let me bring up Brother's site for you. Here you go. Brothersews.com. If you scroll to the bottom, you can find both of their blogs. There's Stitching Social, and then they have a crafting blog. If you want to go back and watch this whole sew along, you can find it on their YouTube channel, their Facebook channel, and if you go to angelawolf.com, scroll down a little and you'll see a picture of the bag. It'll take you right to the blog where you can ask questions. It has a list of all the supplies and all those things that you need. All right, any other questions for me? And thank you, Brother, for posting that, because I don't think it went on to the YouTube channel. Oh, thanks, Delia. Thanks, Julie. Thanks, Angie. And Colleen, Brother's website, brothersews.com. A very fun day. Oh, yeah, you could add a zippered pocket. I'm going to add a zippered bag, but a zippered pocket. If you're going to add the zippered pocket, you're going to need to do it before we add the zipper. Charlene, should we add that to the bag? Do you guys want an inside zippered pocket? Well, it's your call. Leave a comment about that. Don't forget to like on YouTube and Facebook so Brother knows you like the show and you want to see more. Do you guys want a zippered pocket on the inside? Because if you do, I could see if I have any extra fabric to do that. You're welcome. You're welcome. Everyone's saying thank you. It's so great to see you. Oh, good. Janet just entered the contest. That contest looks amazing. Brothersews.com. Don't miss it. And I have it scrolling on the bottom. And don't forget to use hashtag BrotherSews and hashtag BrotherScanAndCut. And I need some help. I have to figure out what to use from Art Spira that I can use in the Scan and Cut for some vinyl to add to my mishap on the bag. It has to look intentional. So if you have any ideas, let me know. Everyone's saying, yeah, okay, so I'll think about it. But I will add it. It'll be optional. You don't have to. But it would be nice. All right, everyone. Have a great day. I will see you next week. So today is the end of the week. If you're watching live, I will see you on Tuesday at noon. We're going to finish this bag up. And then next Thursday, we'll do the little extra bonus coin bag and do some fun things with Print Moda. Until next time, happy sewing. And you can see behind me, there's the tweed skirt sitting on the table with the luminaire. I'm going to be working on that later today. So I'll share photos on Instagram. Bye, everyone.